Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and in this video we are going to talk about Alberta's prosperity. Now, what does that even mean? See, this is a geopolitical, uh, how do I say, geopolitical version of karma. Karma is a bitch. Now, what is all this about? See, just few days ago, if you remember, for those who follow it closely, Mark Carney actually he said that we expect the US administration to respect Canadian sovereignty. Okay? And why he said that? He said that because the reports are that US officials met with leaders linked to the Canadian separatist movement called Alberta Prosperity Project. So that's why I said Alberta's Prosperity. In short, APP. And this is the group that actually advocates for the Alberta's independence. Now, before we move forward, okay, I want you to know this that I'm not making this video to talk about Alberta's independence or Alberta's prosperity project or any such thing. Okay, that's not the scope of my channel. This channel is all about trade, how I see geopolitics as with trade, money, currency, payment systems, all that. Okay, so if you like all that thing, then please do like and subscribe, and let's get started. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why this whole Alberta Prosperity Project and President Trump or US officials meeting this group or something spooked Canada. And why I said that karma is a you know what, right? So what exactly happened here? What happened is the news. Let me show you real quick few things and then we go from there, alright? Real quick, it won't take too long, alright? So, as you can see, this is the news on political BBC everywhere. It is covered. Mark Carney says he expects Trump administration to put out of Alberta independence talk and this and that. But the Canadian Prime Minister stopped short of calling homegrown Alberta independence efforts or organizers' attempts to enlist US government backing treasonous. Why treasonous? Because David Abbey, he is also he's British Columbia Premier. He said that this is treason and this and that. Whatever they say, that's their thing. And then Scott Bessent actually mocked at it and made fun of it. Right? So, once again, I'm not going to talk about this whole thing. I'm just showing you how things change in geopolitics. What goes around comes around. Okay? You should remember all this. So, respect Canadian sovereignty. All of a sudden, Canada cares about its sovereignty. Basically, when its own group that is there sitting in Canada is going and talking to US about all these things. Now, why I said this? I said this is because of this. It is all these things. This guy right here, okay, this guy, just in 2023 before leaving, he was calling this, whatever these guys were doing, freedom of speech. He's talking about freedom of speech and all that without looking into his own backyard. That when you keep snakes in the backyard, they tend to bite you. Okay? So this is why I said that karma. So when you try to do it to others, it happens to you too. You're not gonna be free from it. So that was the whole point of it. But the question really is that what is this whole thing, that why this group wants independence from Canada? The group basically is saying that, hey, we are the major contributors to everything. Okay, so they argue that federal center in Ottawa runs policies that are structurally hostile and all that thing. They are saying that whatever Canada does, whatever Alberta's contribution to Canada's economy is, Alberta is not getting the fair share of it. So they believe that if they are free, they are a separate country. Okay, then they can actually they're better off that way. Okay, now let me show you their website. These guys are nuts. I mean, they have their own website and all that too. Check this out. This is quite interesting. Alberta Prosperity Project. Can you believe this? I mean, I'm wondering how they actually run it and how they maintain a membership. You see that membership, subscribe. It's like Netflix subscription. This is funny. Alright, so check this out. Alberta sovereignty in the context of its relationship with Canada refers to the aspiration of Alberta to gain greater autonomy and control over provincial areas of responsibility, distinct from the federal government's area of responsibility. Okay? However, a combination of economic, political, cultural, and human rights factors, each highlighting the province's unique position within Canada, has resulted in many Albertans defining Alberta sovereignty to mean Alberta becoming an independent country and taking control of all matters that fall within the jurisdiction of an independent nation. And I'm not saying any of that. I'm just reading what their website is saying. Okay? So that's what these guys are all about. Okay? Now, but what exactly is going on though? Why all of a sudden Trump administration is taking interest into this? See, why Trump administration is taking interest into this is because during the World Economic Forum Summit, what Canada said, what Mark Carney said in his speech, as well as what Mark Carney said about inviting China for trade and everything else. So that has to have some sort of repercussions, right? When you do those things and then you make threats, I mean, you're the neighbor of the most powerful country in the world, and then you're the neighbor of the country where you actually export most of your stuff, and then you're going there saying these things. Now, the US had to respond in a certain way, okay? But now let's look at the numbers. Like I said, my channel is not about, I don't talk about domestic politics, okay? It will rarely happen unless, I have to. But otherwise, I don't talk about domestic politics. I don't talk about prosperity or something, those things are also part of domestic politics, okay? Because if you look at historically also, if you look into things, then no country has ever been divided because of some type of grouping or something like that, okay? No country has ever been divided like that. You look into any separatist movement, none of the separatist movement have ever succeeded. That's the bottom line, okay? They are there just to make noise, that's about it. Anyways, so first of all, now why all this becomes very interesting? This becomes interesting because if you want to understand this, let's look at the numbers. Okay, numbers wise, Alberta's energy production is cited around 6.7 million BOE per day, roughly the 75% of Canada's total on BOE basis. If you look into barrels of oil equivalent, then Alberta produces 75% of Canada's total energy production. Canada's crude export flow is cited around 4.2 million barrels per day in 2024, that is, with 95.7% going to the United States, valued around $140 billion. Okay, now capital intensity raises the stakes, and that is the oil sands capex is cited around 13.3 billion Canadian dollars, and total Alberta energy capex around 30.9 billion Canadian dollars. Okay, so if you look into all these things, then you find that Alberta actually is not just little bit thing. Alberta is a major contributor. So if you remove Alberta out of the equation from Canada, then there are certain serious economic repercussions to Canadian economy. Okay. Now let's look into the trade and investment leverages here. Canada and US goods trade is huge. Okay. The combined value of Canada's imports plus exports with US surpassed 1 trillion Canadian dollars, with US taking 75.9% of Canada's exports and supplying 62.2% of Canada's imports. Okay, there is still US as always has a trade deficit here, but it's not that much of a trade deficit as compared to China or somebody else. Okay, the Canada's energy exports are the backbone of the surplus. Basically, majority of the Canada things that Canada exports is basically the energy, which is around $176.2 billion. Then energy products, it's everything and anything. Okay, then Alberta's direct contribution is huge on exports. This is now we are looking into Alberta's contribution in that export. Okay, Alberta exports in 2023 were $171.6 billion, and Alberta accounted for 22.5% of total Canadian exports. Also, Alberta is also extremely US oriented. For example, the US was cited as 88.5% of Alberta's export destination by value, meaning that almost 89% or less than 90% for the number's sake. Okay, this is pretty much 90% of the whole thing goes to Canada. Sorry, goes to US. Okay, and Alberta's energy weight inside Canada's US energy trade is basically obvious. I mean, Alberta's 124.1 billion crude oil export value this is like 70% of the total Canadian export. Now think about all this. So if if Alberta breaks away from this whole thing, then Canada's total GDP is what, $2 trillion? Now imagine what that GDP will look like after that. Okay. Now this is just by numbers. I'm just giving you all these things. Now when you look at the map, okay, now here's the interesting part about it. Okay, so give me a second. Google Maps. Let's open the maps. And then I'm going to show you even more interesting thing. This is the map. Okay, and alright. This is Canada and right here is Alberta. Now if you look at this map, okay. Now for those who will think that US will have a good access and pipeline to Alaska and this and that, all that is already there. Okay, there is NORAD, all that treaties are there. So US is not worried about the land part of things. Okay, first thing first is US benefit in this whole entire thing is that US wants to have a leverage. You know, the term that's called grabbing by the balls. So that's what they're trying to show. That right now they're tickling it like that. Okay, and then when they're tickling it, so Canadians are like, oh no, sovereignty. Okay, so that's what's happening. And now let's say, just theoretically, I'm not saying anything else. Okay, just theoretically, if this right here, okay, let's say this becomes a separate country, then what do you see? You will see that this is a British Columbia. This is part of Canada. Okay, then you have then you have other problem, meaning that all the major countries, okay, major state provinces that are Canadian provinces, they will have some serious problems in accessing British Columbia too. From here all the way this, and then they will have Alberta in between, something that that US can still use for arm twisting purposes down the line. I'm not saying that this will always happen like this from territory to territory, but from Canada to British Columbia, if you will have to go directly, then what will happen? You'll have to go here, passport. You need passport to go to Alberta. Then after that, you come back to British Columbia. Okay, so the whole drama will be there. Then I mean, it will change the whole entire equation, not just the economy. Now you notice Calgary is here. Calgary is a major city in Canada. Okay, so with this whole entire thing, I mean, the Canadian economy will take some serious damage. Okay, it's not just gonna be what I showed you earlier, the way they were talking about uh, this whole freedom fighter thing in India, right? That is outside of India that's happening, but this is serious thing for Canada. All right, now, um, and also the 80 to 90% of your thing, okay, 90% of your trade, exports, and everything else goes to US, and US will get a partner that will actually trade in dollar, not in any other currency or something. And I don't know how else I should say. I think I think that's gonna hit Canadian economy so hard that they will forget about anything else. I mean, talking to China or any other country, right? So there are some serious problems with this whole entire thing, and this is why Mark Carney wanted US not to meddle in internal Canadian affairs. Okay, internal Canadian politics. That's what that's all about. Okay, so that's what Alberta's prosperity is. So I hope you guys learned something. If you want to go check out their website and all, see how much the prosperity holds. Okay, and yeah, and I'll talk to you guys in another video. Take care.